I want to address. It seems like we have some differing forces lately. It's in the labor law world. We have a very pro-union National Labor Relations Board with a pro-union administration, but we are seeing, on the other hand, this push towards right to work in numerous states. I want to address Ray, Rick, and Suzanne. I know you've been working with nurses all across the country in efforts to resist forced unionization there. Where do you think we're going to be headed here? Are we going to shy away from right to work in most states, or do you think this trend will continue and we'll be seeing more right to work legislation in the next few years?
Well, you know,
I think more people are going to want right to work. I mean, if I was in, I think it's, the more people see in the paper that people are going that way, I just say hooray for them, and I think it encourages other people.
You know, one of the things that unions are doing to kind of counter that is kind of funny. And in fact, we did a podcast on that a couple months ago. Was that they're trying to, like in Michigan, and I don't know if you heard of this, Ray and Suzanne, but in Michigan they actually had on the ballot an amendment to make unionizing a constitutional right. And so, if that would have passed, then it would have made it impossible for the right to work states to happen. You know, so they're looking at other unique ways to kind of stop that. Yeah. So, and I think, and in fact, I was reading an article in the Wall Street Journal about a week and a half ago, where this topic is starting to kind of rear its ugly head more and more. You know, where they're trying to take this and put it to a vote on the ballot to where it would make being a right to work state illegal. So I don't know how much kind of traction that's going to get, but I know that's one of the things that they're looking at.
Yeah, and on that issue, you know, I really think that it's really politically driven in terms of. I mean, if you look at the most recent states that have gone right to work. Which is, you know, Michigan, Indiana, and I believe Wisconsin. I know for certain that Indiana, the governor at the time, was Republican, and they had a supermajority. Michigan was a Republican governor with a majority in both houses, the Republicans. And I think that the same is true for Wisconsin. And I think that, you know, irrespective of where you fall politically from a citizen's perspective, as Suzanne was pointing out, look, it affords people a choice. And that's why unions oppose it, because they don't want the individual to be able to decide. The union wants to make that decision for them. The right to work in its most simplest form puts the power in the hands of the people. So whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, as a citizen, it's beneficial to you because you ultimately decide if a union does come in, whether you want to pay dues or not and be a member of that organization.
Right, in a closed-shop state, unions are basically banking on that tyranny of the majority there. As soon as you have enough people that support the union, everyone else in that workplace is forced to pay those union dues.
Absolutely right, James. Absolutely right.
You know, it's funny. It's funny that unions talk about, you know, we're a democratic institution and we believe in democracy, and you know, I mean, every time you pick up a newspaper or hear a union official talk, and they're always talking about democracy. But coming back from the other side, you know, from being a union official, ex-union official, I want to clarify that. Is that there is no democracy there. And, you know, there is no democracy there. In fact, the internal politics of unions dictate that. It is a top-down, you know, type of organization, and the power is in the hands of a few. And it's the same way with, you know, on the shop floor or in the local union hall, that the power is in the few, and anybody who doesn't go along with it, then there's repercussions for their going against the majority.
And those consequences, as you know, Rick, you know, either during the time that you were actually enforcing the consequences or now battling against them are pretty severe. And again, going back to the point of why I think right to work legislation is very important. And at the end of the day, it puts the power in the person's hand to decide whether they want to be a part of it or not.
Well, I just like the term right to work. Like I said in the beginning, I would never, ever, ever participate in a strike. I don't think that nurses should ever go on strike. So I want the right to work in my own hospital and take care of my patients as I see fit. And if somebody else wants to be on strike, it's for them, but it's not for me. And I think that nurses should respect each other as professionals. And I think the disappointing thing for me during my time was the way some of these nurses that wanted the union refused to talk to me. So how do you get somebody to come over to your side? Do you ignore them and treat them like a bully? Or do you treat them with respect and have a discussion together? So I think that no matter what, we should all respect the right for each person to decide themselves. And that's what I like about being a right to work state. If you don't want to be in the union, you're not in the union. But you should still be able to work together.
Nobody. Yeah, I'm sorry, Ray. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, into James, underlying question is, I think that the more you see the National Labor Relations Board going forward with the types of policies that they're putting into place, that's making organization and unions getting into workplaces easier. I think the trend at the state level will be to look towards right-to-work legislation, and that's going to be particularly true in instances where the state at the time either has a Republican governor or Republican Senate and House.
And Ray, some of that legislation you're talking about there, I'm assuming you're referencing those shotgun organizing campaigns, the new rules that limiting the campaigns down to 15 days. And back from the month and a half or so you get now to run a campaign, as well as some other things that didn't quite get passed, but we're definitely gaining some momentum, and we're basically just waiting for those to pass now.
I think that's absolutely right, James. You basically get, the employer gets noticed, and at the pace that things are going, they barely have time to get their feet on the floor and going before they've got an election on their hands.
Sure.
The only entity that wins there is the union, because it prevents the employer to go through the process of educating and properly campaigning so that the employee that's voting makes an educated decision.
Go back on some of the things that Suzanne was saying earlier, and bring it to this topic. Some of there's been from the other side. There's a breakdown in communications is the biggest cause of why employees, whether they be a nurse or a machine operator or whoever, the reason why they start going to a union is because there's a breakdown in communications. The management's not listening, or for whatever reason they're not communicating. A union can be in a facility, and I know facilities, and especially in healthcare, where you can keep things kind of under the table and quieter for a longer period of time. There's been times when, in fact, in California, when we were putting together this merge between the steelworkers and the California Nurses Association, there was one facility that we were in for over a year. And the whole point of time, and it's the union's job to create a anger and an us against them mentality against management. And now, with the time limits that we have now, it is very hard, especially because the union can become entrenched into your organization for a long period of time. How do you, from a practical point of view, how do you correct that in 5, 10, 15 days? How do you have the ability to do that? That's why when I say when and not if, when this reduced timeline actually takes place, it's going to be even more essential, even more important that management takes the steps, as Suzanne was talking about, to make sure that they communicate, that they talk, that they listen to the people, because without that, 5, 10, 15 days is going to be impossible. And as you said, Ray,
right.
I mean, just being able to find out what's happening is going to be impossible. To be able to educate your employees in time for you to have a successful, outcome of the election.
Yeah, it's right, Rick. Now more than ever, given the direction that we're heading, employers need to be vigilant, need to keep the avenues of communication with their employees open, and make sure that they keep unions out, because once they're in, and if the employer's living in the dark and not receptive and not listening to what's happening, by the time they get that petition, it's a done deal. It'll be a done deal.
Well,
yeah, and I talked with people, back when they were trying to get into our hospital, from other hospitals around that voted for the union, and then within a year they were crying the blues and wanting to know how to get them out. So that's a whole lot harder to get them out.
Exactly. A decertification campaign is a lot more strenuous than most people would assume. It seems way easier to get a union into a workplace than it is to get them out.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Ray and Suzanne, I want to thank you both for being on today. It was great talking to both of you. I hope you enjoy your comparatively warm and sunny weather while we stride through these record lows in Michigan, and I hope to talk to both of you soon.
Likewise,
Thanks,
James.
Rod.
Stay warm over there.
Oh, we'll do our best.
Take care, Suzanne. Nice talking to you. See you, Rick.
Thank you both.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.